All right, Board Member Mitch, I think we have majority of the people on the call now. So whenever you're ready, floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to take some time this evening to do a call to check in with parents, community members, stakeholders, as we are coming to a close. Our school year is coming to a close next week with graduation and the end of the school year, and of course promotions for our kindergarten. Well, yeah, I think pre-K, kindergarten, and fifth graders to sixth grade, eighth graders to ninth grade, and then of course our 12th graders graduating. I just wanted to take a moment to check in with you all. Excuse me, hold on, my phone. I apologize. So I just want to just give some quick district updates. Yesterday we had a renaming committee meeting. We didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't do a formal meeting regarding Best Academy. That was last night. We have a website that's dedicated for additional information around the naming of Best Academy, along with where you can submit any recommendations or ideas around that. Pierre or Keith can pop that in the chat just for you to have that link. Or you can go to our Atlanta Board of Education website, and it should be under the naming committee information for you. So I just want to update people on that if they want to submit any names or suggestions around that the rename the Best Academy. We also, like I said, have graduation coming up next week. We start on the 23rd, I believe, and go to the 25th. I'm super excited around this time because our scholars work so hard to get to this point, and we want to support them in any way that we can. The board office have additional tickets that anyone may request. They can make that request to me or the board office directly. On June 1st, we have our student outcome focused governance retreat. I would like to say I am one of the board members that are doing the coaching for student outcomes focused governance around board governance. And so I started in February and I will go all the way into November. And it's a very intense training. So I'm happy to be a part of that. Also, we are having our Georgia School Board Association Conference in Savannah, our annual summer conference, which will be June 8th through June 10th. And I believe the majority of the board is attending that conference as well. She's trying to think of any updates I may have left out. Here, or Keith, you can chime in. If not, I will open the floor to have a discussion, discussion with our parents.
Yes, I wanted to just say real quickly, thank you to the city for just coming out to celebrate the 150th parade. It was amazing. And not a play on words with using maze and amazing as it relates to that, but it was a really great parade. And then the upcoming events, we are in the process of updating the website that will have all of the upcoming dates where folks can join in and to kind of continue the celebration. Again, this is all sponsored through partnerships that we're making to cover the cost of this. But it is a really great opportunity for folks to become extremely engaged in what's happening. And so just wanted to add that.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Johnson, Ed Johnson, thank you for your question around why are we renaming Best. So I do want to just speak a moment on that. It came to my attention the dedication that Mr. Dortch, Mr. Tommy W. Dortch, and the 100 Black Men provided the support and resources around Best Academy. It is our senior gender school. I don't know if the name would include his name, but we would like to have a committee to discuss a possible renaming. And I will also say the renaming idea was brought to me when I first came on the board by Principal Jones in 2018 in regards to Best Academy having the name Ben Carson at the time. That name was dropped, but we didn't add any additional name after that. And so this will give us the opportunity to explore that and to see exactly what will come out of the naming committee for Best Academy. So I don't know if that answer the question you put in the chat, but let me know. You know, you can reach me directly, email or text me. I'll be happy to always to speak with you.
And I'm sorry, Board Member Mitchell, I see that there's a question, I believe, from Waukesha regarding the notice. Please note that the notice is shared in several ways, including that of email, Facebook, and thank you, Akeem. I think I saw him put Facebook. Also, all of our notices are posted on our web page, and it's also posted around the building as well as on Assembly. And so we always ask people to check all of those different locations just to figure out, you know, what's happening as it relates to the board. A quick way of getting to that, though, would be the web page, the Board of Education webpage, and Assembly are kind of like our official website postings of our meetings.
Yes.
However, I do want to just reiterate what Board Member Mitchell stated. The meeting did not occur in a formal way, given the fact that there was no quorum for the meeting. And so the next meeting is scheduled, is that the 31st? 31st?
Yes, May 31st.
We'll have that. So that would technically, if we have a quorum, that would be the first official meeting. And we will notice that meeting this week, just so that we can help advertise to ensure that everybody is aware of it.
Yes, thank you.
And Keith, it looks like if we can just make sure we have Akeem's email address. He said he wanted to be added to the list. We can take care of it.
I make sure. I'm not sure what list he's referring to, our list or the District 5 list, but either way it goes, I make sure he's on both. So,
but subscribe to the calendar. If you subscribe to the calendar, at least you get alerts. We're finding out that's the best way to just stay up to date with what's happening. Even if we change the date or move something around, that subscription to the calendar helps out a whole lot.
Gotcha. Okay, great.
All right. Board Member Mitchell, are you ready for public comment or just?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So we have reached the opportunity to engage directly with stakeholders. As always, as we conducted our meetings, we do ask that you use the raise hand feature as Waukesha has done. We do ask, because we are limited to just 1 hour, that you get directly to your question or statement so that we have time to make sure that we hear from everyone who wants to provide comments at this time. And so with that being said, we'll start with Waukesha, and then as hands go up, we will move accordingly to that. Good evening, Waukesha.
Hey Keith, how you doing? I'm gonna start with you guys first. Please, I got this notice last night. Like, I get it. I know we busy. But I almost missed it. So I don't know. Maybe it went out. Maybe it went out earlier or something. I don't know, but I got it last night, and I was kind of shocked that I noticed these meeting notices, like they come the day before. So that's one thing. The other thing is the joint committee. We have a joint committee between APS and the city of Atlanta. And there was a meeting allegedly scheduled end of April, somewhere around May, but it didn't happen because everybody dropped the ball. The city ain't talking to the school district. But here's the thing. Erika, you just mentioned we got graduation. School is over. Teacher checked out after spring break, to be clear. We have these things. We don't need things on the record for people to have on the record. We need stuff that's working. If you're going to have a committee, have the meetings, because we got summer that's going to happen and we don't got no plans. We've been seeing Lisa and Andre taking pictures this whole school year. What is the plan for the summer? I guess that'll be the question, other than the year of the youth, because midnight basketball only helped so many. What do we have planned for the 50,000 students that we have here in APS? And I'll land there.
Okay, thank you. I know we have some administration, some administration is on. So if you could chime in and talk about our summer plan. Well, we have, I know APS, what we do is summer recovery. We also have the enrichment part of our summer programming, and then we also have a partnership with the Atlanta Airport that hires so many kids for apprenticeship this summer, along with the Beltline. And there's some other opportunities, but I'm gonna open it up for anyone from the administration to kind of expand upon those opportunities for our students this summer, so that our community can know exactly.
And can they drop those?
Yeah,
Can they drop those activities in the chat so we can share them?
And so, board member, and Waukesha, I did hear you. Board member Mitchell, what I'm going to do is, we did a presentation, administration did a presentation to the board, I believe about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I'll see if I can drop that presentation, which covered the summer enrichment. So I'll make sure we drop that, Waukesha, for you.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, anyone else?
Sorry, I wasn't exactly sure how to raise my hand, but this is
No worries.
Emily Bacon.
You're good to go. Hey,
Not sure if y'all heard.
yeah, you're
This is
good.
Emily Bacon. Oh, okay. I'll go ahead then. Thank you. Sorry about that. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Emily Bacon. I'm a new parent to APS. I've got a kindergartner. And Erica, I wanted to thank you for doing this and taking in public comment. One of the things that some of our parents have been focusing on lately with all the stuff in the community with shootings and just mass shootings in the country was, kind of safety and security. And I know this is something that's been on a lot of people's minds and has been talked about in the board. So, and I know it's taken very seriously at APS. But I did want to bring up something that a lot of people thought might be beneficial. I think there's two things, mainly the vestibules that are being built at different schools that don't have them. That is a project that's been going on for a while. I think I saw somewhere there was like a, RFP that was signed in like August of 2021. So that's almost 2 years ago. And some of the schools still don't have them, and we're not getting them until even winter of 2024. So that's something that I was hoping maybe the board could look at, speeding up that process if it's even possible. The other thing I wanted to bring up was security resource officers at elementary schools. I know that APS provides those to high school and middle schools, and have, historically to elementary schools, just because the need wasn't necessarily there. But I think we're kind of hitting a tipping point in society where, with the shootings and things like that happening, it just is something I think would be really kids to have them there as their protectors, and a good guy with a gun. But that's just something I wanted to just bring your attention, and I appreciate it, you taking that into consideration.
Thank you, Emily. As you know, I will be following up with you on that, and I did get your email, by the way. So thank you for sharing that with me today.
All right, thank you, Emily. Yep, Akeem is next.
Hey, how y'all doing? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, how you doing, Akeem?
I'm doing good, Erica. So my question would be around the accountability around the district as far as Dr. Herring goes. We see the photo ops, and I've been saying this for countless times. I've asked you all, is it going to take for students to get hurt? Is it going to take for a student to die? I don't know what it's going to take for you all to really put some fire up under her and hold her accountable. The data for our high schools on the southwest side of town, if you look at the chat, there was a photo drop, and surprisingly, I mean, it shows that 1,800 scholars are tested for the PSAT 11th graders, and that's 1 year before they graduate. How can we continue to move in a direction where most of our scholars aren't equipped to complete nationally amongst their peers? Like, what jobs and careers are they prepared for once they leave the district? This is equating to our crime issues where our scholars aren't being able to stay in Atlanta and have a productive life. It's a quality of life issue, and we got to do better with the leader that we have in our district. I mean, turnaround strategy, I think it's time for that. It's time for us to demand better amongst our scholars, the leadership inside the buildings. They need to push towards everyone could thrive. Everyone could do this, but it takes for you all to say, hey, we see an issue with this and we're going to push forward. I appreciate you on the accountability commission and pushing your thoughts, but we also need your other colleagues to join in and say, hey, enough is enough. I mean, if you look at the data, how is 56% of our district don't understand basic problem solving skills? And that's all I have for you right now. But if you could really get that message pushed and continue to push that message, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, Akeem. I hear you loud and clear. You know, I've been working a lot in bringing and lifting the voices and concerns of the parents to Dr. Herring. And I will continue to do that and advocate for my parents in my community. So yes, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
All right, thank you, Akeem. Next, we'll have Liz, followed by Dion. Hey, Liz. I think you're still on mute.
Sorry. I wanted to follow up on facilities. We've had multiple, Erica, we thank you for representing from the North Atlanta cluster, parts of Brandon and E Rivers, Bolton, Sutton, and North Atlanta. But at each of those schools, we've had issues with facilities maintenance this year and real problems when we have paint falling off the building and in desperate need of pressure washing, a track in extreme disrepair, we're at the point where it's dangerous for students, of really getting any traction on repairs. And we've brought this up in the Cluster Go team really for years now, through the past administration and current administration, about how do you see for things that should be on a scheduled repair, how does the school see that, or the roof? And then once it's approved, the timeline to get it done seems to be years out. These are things that are, I think, outside of SPLOST funding. They're just general repairs. They're not new facilities, and just having a lot of trouble on where the local school administrators, they reach dead ends quickly. And it then comes to something we have to turn to the board members, which really doesn't seem like the job of the board members, but getting the superintendent's facilities department specifically to have better communications to the schools.
And so you're speaking about the routine maintenance that should be taking place and on a schedule with work orders. I understand exactly what you're saying. That does run out of our facilities department. And I believe Larry Hoskins is over facilities, so I can voice and send those concerns directly to him.
Basically, transparency and communication is the bottom line.
Communication on what that process looked like, and opportunities for improvement, and to get certain things done in a timely manner. Yes, I did record that. I wrote that down, and I will follow up with Larry Hoskins regarding that. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next we'll have Dion. Hey, Dion.
Hello. Hi, guys. Thank you, Erica, for having this meeting again, and for the APS staff showing up at 6 o'clock at night. Really appreciate it that you offer this across the district to districts, everyone. I just left my Howard Go Team meeting, of which they're talking about a school-based solution and working through the process of a school-based solution to add half days and virtual asynchronous days to the Howard calendar. There is a process to do that. The concern is that much of the beginning of the process does not include the community, and this continues to get pushed through the process without community engagement. And much of the community does not know about it. So I think we need to look at that process, because we could potentially not waste time in developing things if this is not something that the community is interested in from the get-go. With that said, the problem is not what's being talked about. And the problem is we have teachers who are having to be and being held accountable for too many things, from, you know, looking at different tests and analyzing them and implementing new procedures, to learning new technology and software, to getting up to date on the STEM certification that's rolling out, to rolling out new equity issues and different professional learning. It's all too much. It's too much for their mental health. It's too much for their work-life balance. And these are changes that have happened over the last 3 years under this administration. And unfortunately, our compensation plan is not competitive enough with Metro Atlanta, even with the proposed suggestions that they're making. Many of us, as you know, are asking for you not to approve the current budget. We're asking you to push in more money to schools, to push more for teachers, and to roll back some of these things that can take and relieve some of the pressure off the teachers. So we get that culture back that we want, and we're not all in a stress mode. I know you've heard me say this before. I greatly appreciate it again. And I hope that we can make a change with the budget and what we're asking teachers to do with all of these various different, I don't even know what you would call them, tasks that we give them.
Thank you, Dean. I heard you loud and clear. I took my notes here. But I will follow up with you to get more details around each item that you mentioned today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that getting out this information sooner and adjustments and what will be implemented in school year 24 next year, earlier versus just in the summer, might help with retaining some of these amazing staff that we want to keep and that are leaving to find a better work-life balance and a culture that they want to be a part of. So if there are any updates, maybe we could roll those out sooner rather than later.
Okay. Will do. Just making my notes. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member John, did you have anything to add to that?
I wanted to go back to the conversation about facilities. And one of the things I've been seeing some things in the chat as well. I think it's important for people to understand that the capital improvements that happen with the SPLOST dollars only can happen as quickly as we take in the tax revenue. It's not like we pass the SPLOST and then boom, we've got $700 million in our bank account. It rolls in gradually. So for the people who are asking, why do we have this sort of staggered construction timeline for the vestibules? That's part of the reason. Also, yes, even if we had a lot of money, right now, you would have to have all the construction documents and the design and everything done to be able to pull the trigger to get that done for the summer. So I just wanted people to understand, how the SPLOST dollars get collected and spent. So it's not like you can just, without taking out a loan, basically issuing a bond, we can't just go ahead and front load all that construction until we get the money. And the other thing I wanted to point out, and I agree with Board Member Mitchell, we definitely need to, discuss with facilities the at least the mechanism of how you get things on a ticket and get things done. But there's a difference between routine maintenance, which comes out of the operations budget, and cyclical maintenance, which comes out of SPLOST, right? And so what happens, and this is not unique to APS, I've worked for the same thing in the Georgia Building Authority for the state. Very often maintenance gets delayed to the point where, you know, it can be paid for through SPLOST. So I think, you know, having this conversation about how we can tighten our ship about, you know, just the day-to-day routine maintenance versus the cyclical and capital improvement, which comes out of the SPLOST budget. And I probably just overloaded everybody a little bit, but there are two pockets of money. And so, you know, understanding that we need to have more money going to year over year, the routine maintenance is a good piece of feedback. And thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I ask a question real quick for Tamara while we're on this subject? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Tamara, do you know if there's been any discussion with your board or APS as a whole to do it differently, or is SPLOST the only way that you guys are going to continue to do this in the future? Because of course, if we're selling bonds, we can, of course, have the money upfront as soon as we sell the bonds. And of course, in the state of Georgia, the state of Georgia's bond rate is A1, and we're doing really well with construction and the bond sales. So would you ever consider doing things differently so that we don't have to put off maintenance until the money becomes available? Because putting off maintenance causes more problems. If you've got, you know, a leaky curtain wall system and it continues to leak while you're waiting on splash funds, then you've got a mold problem, then you've got a structure problem. So have we ever thought about doing things differently?
And Erika knows this as well. I mean, I believe this was looked into over the last couple of years. That was one of the things that I served on the SPLOST Oversight Committee, and I was asking for them to consider that. You know, is the danger there is you run into a problem. And I actually talked to a superintendent and board members in another district who did exactly this, and a recession hit and they couldn't pay the bond back. You know, and so you do run that risk. It is risky to do that, especially, you know, given, you know, I would say especially now, you know, the prospect of, you know, bond issuances that you couldn't pay for is something that we would have to take seriously. In general, parceling out the construction makes sense. I think that the other part of your question was, how do we make sure that we are doing more routine maintenance so that we don't have to spend so much on the back end for deferred maintenance out of our SPLOST dollars? And yes, I will definitely be looking into that. But that's just to give you the capsule on the issuing the bond. It proposes a real risk for the taxpayers.
All right, so we have Chris next, followed back to Dion again. Good evening, Chris.
Hi there. I just had two comments, I guess, sort of, you know, taking calendar view going forward. One is that just the current calendar, 3-year calendar that we adopted ends at the end of next school year at 2025. And one thing to point out is that those last 2 days are actually after Memorial Day. And it seems like that's an unusual time to end the school year. It is what it is. I know days of the month are tricky sometimes, but then just to put in request to the board, to you, Erika, and other board members, is that if we can visit the calendar process sooner rather than later. So, you know, right now, like you can make plans for like this summer and next summer, which is lovely, you know, but then if we wait whole another year, then when we get to this point next year, we won't have the calendar for the following summer. So, and that was really difficult for a lot of people to manage. And then, yeah, and then just on that too is just, you know, maybe we try to adopt something that's a consistent calendar rather than putting it to vote every couple of years, because that's also been pretty frustrating to go from no week-long breaks in February and October to 3-day breaks to 5-day breaks, back to week-long breaks. That's been another thing that's really disruptive for the community, I think, as well.
Okay. All right. I got that captured, Chris. And I hear you. So yes, I will have that discussion with the other board members as well. Exactly. Because that's something that we approve as a board is the
Right.
calendar. So
Right.
yes, we will bring that to the full board for discussion as well. Because
Yeah.
I've heard that from different parents, by the way. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of it now while it's not a crisis, whereas, when we did it last time, it was at the point where we're almost out of time. So
yes,
it'd be
no,
nice
I
to do
remember
it
that.
before
Yeah.
then.
Before then. Yep. Well taken. Yeah. So we'll follow up with
Thanks.
that.
All right, thank you. So we're going back to Dion and then to Waukesha.
Erica, I just wanted to add on about that calendar. It's also a lot of chatter in our cluster and from other communities I'm hearing from. I'm hearing the teachers are feeling pretty exhausted, the ones that are doing summer school and then turning around, coming back. There's just a matter of days that they have off from my understanding. And that's been very challenging. Also, how the survey was weighted. We have more elementary school teachers, or just looking at, is that really the response everybody wants? Is those week-long breaks still what we want? We know historically that we tried this week-long breaks before, and mid 3-year plan, we went back, right? Because it didn't work. I'm hearing a lot of feedback that this isn't working with summer school and with the teachers working. Also, we've heard about the discipline problems in the community. So revisiting this and relooking at it and updating that survey, into the woman's point before me, sooner rather than later.
Got you. Okay.
And that's also part of compensation packages for teachers.
Gotcha too. Okay.
All right. Waukesha.
Thank you, Keith. First, I wanted to say shout out to the family engagement. I see Keisha them on here. They did a good job with the parent liaison less than like probably 2 weeks ago, 3 at the most. So they really been doing their thing, and I don't think we celebrate them enough, and I most definitely don't think we pay parent liaison enough. But this is another concern I was thinking about when I was listening to the talk about facilities. I go to every Go Team meeting in this district, and the number of schools that I'm seeing that has 200 and 300 kids it's out in space somewhere. It's unbelievable. How would this board and this superintendent justify keeping open schools in the next 2 years when enrollment is constantly declining in a lot of these schools? Yet, and then that'll be a facility thing. We know we got places busting at the seams, but there's a lot of schools that have very little students in it. Elementary schools, they usually have 800 kids, maybe have 200-300 right now. And I noticed that they have started including pre-K in those numbers to make it seem like they got more kids, when usually they leave pre-K out because there's something separate. But how do you justify this? And then talking about facilities, we got all these buildings around Atlanta that people want, that are falling apart, but they're historic. How will we justify? Where will the people or the children come from that will help keep these schools open that have very few kids in them?
Okay, so you asked about the facilities, keeping the schools open that have a low enrollment number, and then also, what was the other question? I'm sorry, Waukesha. That was one part of it, and then you asked about.
It's just justifying keeping schools open when we have low enrollments in these schools. I know it don't been a period, but it don't been brought to you guys' attention. But like, how do you justify, especially when we don't see past closures? Like we have very kids in the building now, and it's like I'm shocked nobody is talking about this loudly because we know what we went through a few years ago.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So as I was getting ready to transition coming on the board for my first term, I do remember the closure of Adamsville and a couple other schools because of low enrollment. Now we have schools that are open with low enrollment. So I understand, how do you justify it in one sense with a different administration? Now this administration is still open. We are still in our facilities work, which has been has taken a while, I will say, for this type of conversation to happen. I can't recall what were the parameters around that, because I don't have it with me, Waukesha, but I'll definitely follow up with you on that. And then the other thing about the historical buildings, the preservation, I do want to highlight during the summer, not in the summer, beginning of I think it was the summer, I think it was July and August. I worked with David Mitchell of Atlanta Historical Preservation with my interns from Georgia Tech, and we did a study around Atlanta public schools and preservation and how to preserve those historical buildings and what that would look like with upkeep and maintenance. I'll be happy to share that document with you as well. It was a recommendation that I submitted to the board just so they could see what came out of that study as well. But to answer your question, I would need to follow up with you on additional information. And another thing is that we need to have that conversation, as you mentioned, around the low enrollment and those buildings that are still open with low enrollments, because we really haven't dived into that a lot. I think it's been around how we prioritize what buildings are going to be surplus, what buildings are going to be disposable. I mean, that's not majority of facilities treat, but I know the last thing we touched on was that. And then also it was if we were going to use some of our properties for affordable housing. That was the discussion in the last facilities retreat as well. And then additional around the growth of the city and what does that look like in the next 30 years. So I'll be happy to follow up with you with additional information and we could talk through some ideas. I'd love to talk through that with you as well, Waukesha. So I will be reaching back.
Let's most definitely connect offline, because this is something that I'm gonna say and I'm gonna land. We it's crisis of affordable housing. That's the reason why we ain't got no children in these schools, because they don't push all those families out. But we already know that. We have empty apartment houses building sitting all over this city, because our superintendent always is in picture with the mayor. We have them sitting all over this city. Before we build anything else, how about we just make those affordable? Can somebody tell the mayor, let's make those affordable? Cut a deal with the brokers, the real estate agents, or whoever you in bed with, to make those affordable. And how about let's start preserving Atlanta history, because I learned something about Atlanta history from my grandma. My great grandmama turned 120 years old today, and she lived on the west side. And I can believe the history that was bulldozed over. I had to go Google it, and I almost couldn't even find this old little bit of small area on the west side that was owned by Black slaves. So I'm kind of tired of, everybody talking about affordable housing and building and doing this. We need to preserve this history and teach our babies about our history here, and tell this mayor and superintendent, come together and talk to these other folks about making things affordable so that families can stay in the city and stay in their school. I'm a land.
I'm right there with you. Thank you. Thank you, Waukesha.
All right, thank you. So next we'll go to Sherry and then to Akeem. Hey, Sherry, if you're talking, you're on mute. All right, we're gonna come back to her. We'll move to Dunn and then we'll follow up and see if we ever get her.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you, Erica, for having this meeting. Actually, a lot of the commentary has been really just helpful and enlightening. And I didn't really have anything to say this evening, but Waikisha triggered me. And actually, and part of the reason why we were talking about some of the empty buildings, one of the things that when we started in 2011, EMC squared, which is the equivalent to SEEKS and NAPS and SINS, similar for the Maze cluster, it stands for Embracing Maze Community and Cluster Schools. And the reason why is because when my son was at West Manor, when I say that was when Latin Charter was starting, Drew was starting, Kip, like when I say they were just bombarding us with, it's not safe at Young, you need to come over here. And I still have some of the emails of some of the propaganda that they use trying to pull students away. So I say that, I don't remember the number. I don't know if you can remember off the top of your head, one of the board members, how many students are actually in charter schools right now? Does anyone know approximately?
A little over 10,000.
A little over 10,000. And the reason why I say that is one of the main purposes of EMC Squared was to make our schools attractive. Like a lot of corporations, one of their pillars is attracting and retaining good talent. It was the same thing here, is that you'd be surprised at how many people, and I see it because I walk every day, I see people pull out of here in little uniforms to other schools, driving out of my neighborhood in Southwest Atlanta in the Cascade Heights area every day, every morning. And so I wonder if our schools were a little bit more attractive. 10,000 spread across all of the empty schools may not fill them all up, but I wonder if we could literally provide, right, the customer service, the curriculum, just provide so people feel as though possibly their kids could get a decent education and have a decent experience in our local community schools. And we have been preaching that forever. Like if we don't put the work in, we're going to constantly have all of these charter schools, even if they come through Atlanta public schools. And I commend, I don't think you guys have approved any charter schools recently, right?
No, we haven't.
But I think we just had one that opened up on MLK in the old like unemployment office building or whatever. But I think they went to the state.
From the state. Yeah,
exactly. And I think it's really important. That's what I'm saying. I think it's important to give the board credit that you're not approving new charter schools, but there's a path around the board going to the state. Now, how do we close those down? Make it so that why would I go to that charter school? Why would I want to go in the middle of MLK in a shopping plaza and send my kid to school there? Why, when I have a facility like Young or Maze or Beecher Hills or, Cascade, why would we go over there? And so just to piggyback on some of the empty buildings, and this goes back to the leadership around Dr. Herring, we've told her, I go, Maze is a beautiful school, but the word on the street is, why would I go there? Why am I going to gamble with my child? The risk is too high that they're not going to provide AP. IB is not quite there. So they're going to fall in the black hole, right? The discipline, it feels like a prison. Like there's so many things around environment. When I talk to people and try to recruit, I've stopped recruiting, but when I would try to recruit and try to give reasons why, they're like, so what you're asking me to do is to gamble. You're asking me to gamble with my child. And so all I want to just add to what Waikisha said, and I think Akeem said earlier around leadership, is it's all connected. Nothing works in a silo. Everything is connected. And until we understand that we must improve what we offer in our local community schools, we're going to continue to bleed students. I think that 10,000, if we could even pull in 50%, 5,000, it could help a lot of our schools with enrollment. And I don't know how many ways to say it, but we've got to do a better job of what we provide. And going back to what Dion said, I remember when I first came into Atlanta Public Schools, we were probably one of the highest paid districts, right? Where people wanted to get into APS because of the money. And people are like, I'm going to Cobb. And I've actually had teachers that people are fleeing, like, I'm going to deal with what, why, when I can make more money somewhere else. So if they can get into Gwinnett or get into Cobb or other places, they're fleeing. So really, if the board can just really honestly, how do we pull back in the students that we actually have? And that would solve a lot of our problems. So that's what I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Don.
All right, thanks, Don. We're gonna try Sherry one more time. Sherry, are you?
Okay, I'm here. I wanted to make some comments. I'm a big fan of PTA, and how can we get the board to rally around getting the PTA up and running in all our schools? We need that support. Because that's where we can get a lot of the basically the preservation of the schools that we have, the historical schools like for Booker T. Washington, you know, and other areas of Atlanta. We just need to get the board to embrace PTA, get with Georgia PTA on a local level, and all APS schools make sure they're up and running, because that's the other avenue where parents and community and teachers can engage and make an impact on scores and so forth. I have yet to see the board really supporting PTA. So I just want to, you know, remind you guys that we need that level of support for PTA.
Thank you, Sherry.
All right. We're gonna go back to Chris and then we will go with Dion.
Hi there. I thought of something else I wanted to bring to your attention, Erica. This past week was state championships for track and field, and several APS schools participated, which is very exciting. But I did want to just bring to your attention to the fact that the North Atlanta athletes traveled to Rome, Georgia, which is under 2 hours away. And we had to scramble PTA and others to pay for hotel rooms for our students who are participating. And we learned after the fact that some other APS schools who were going from Atlanta to Cobb County got APS to pay for those hotel rooms, even though we were, you know, told that that wasn't allowed because it was under 2 hours. So I just wanted to let you know that there's some, you know, differences in policies or lack of awareness or something there as well.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let me look into that. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Chris. We'll go Dion, then back to Don.
Erica, follow up to that question, and then I thought of something else as well. Would that live in the athletics department? So under Larry Hoskins, would that question that she was just asking, like who would be do you know who would be the decision maker on that?
So first of all, I would have to reach out to, well, not me, well, anyhow, Jasper Jules, athletic director, and kind of see exactly. I'm not saying I'm reaching out to him directly, but I would have to bring this to Dr. Heron for her to look into it.
Correct.
But not Larry Hoskins, but Jasper Jules is our athletic director. And they have the budget for athletics, which include travel. Travel is a part of that budget. So just kind of finding out what took place, why did one school have to pay for hotels and other schools didn't. So you just got to ask those questions to kind of see what process was used and what decisions were made around that. So that's something I will have to bring back to Dr. Heron for her to look into, as well as around the PTA. Sherry, I heard you've done course with like making our schools attractive, because that's something we always talk about. Make sure our schools are competitive enough that people would want to send their kids there, along with having the right leadership in our schools. And we're going through that process with May's principal search right now, which I am again advocating for. But I will
can I just
bring
follow
this
up
to
with
Dr.
that?
Heron.
It just sounds like, I mean, we've heard this theme that not a lot of money is spent in athletics, budget wise. And I know that's another area we've been asking. We know the positive impact of endorphins, getting kids involved, developing social skills, getting energy, et cetera. Also something to do after and before school. So I think we need to see what sort of things have been done and pushed out to different schools, because we've heard it now with facilities, to Lizzie's point, different tracks and whatnot. I remember hearing light stuff years ago during COVID. We've heard about athletic trainers. We're now hearing about this. So and we're hearing it in budget on, there's not a lot of money spent, but we're also hearing about mental health and getting kids engaged and wanting to come to school. So the thing that I was going to actually say was also tonight at our Go Team meeting, you know, Howard has always been a high achieving school. We're seeing dips in data and map data even more now. Just want to push to the forefront that right now in middle school, all 3 grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th, were all in elementary school when COVID hit. So the 8th graders now were in 5th grade and finished out their 5th grade in 3 months of virtual school, asynchronous virtual school. So we have the first cohort of kids that were elementary school students moving into 9th grade. So many of us want more transparency around the K1 data outside of the soft G, because it is not on the APS Insights dashboard. And we also want any data on the high school. If we're going to be making them do these MAP tests, and as well as the kindergarten to first, then we should be able to look at that data without putting in open records requests.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've reached out and got, you know, look at the soft G report, which it's one graph. It doesn't even say
It doesn't
school
break it down into
No.
the different, and that's one of the things that I have been advocating for. Can you show me what it looks like cluster by cluster, school by school, grade by grade?
And we've heard you ask those questions and other Board of Education members month after month after month after month. So again, we are just, you know, demanding more transparency around this data. If you are going to make the teachers responsible for reviewing this data and pushing in these tests and stress to get those same items covered in a shorter amount of time because you've given more test days, and make the students do that, and the pressure and the anxiety and all of that above, and taking away teaching days.
All right. Thank you, Dion.
All right, so we have Dion and Akeem left. The time is 6:53, so I'm sure by the time Erika will hear from you. Dion and Akeem, and then we'll go to you for closing remarks.
I actually want to speak to, in the chat, Ed Johnson put in that just last month, the board approved losing the all-time most number of same teachers that were appointed. I think it says, this is my little things that were appointed since 2018 and resigned effective the last few months, the latest few months, 54. And so my question, what is Dr. Herron's plan? Like, how does she respond to so many people leaving, so many vacancies in the district, right? I'm just curious, does it register that our retention rate is super low? Is there a plan? I heard Dion saying something about the budget and about we need to pay the teachers more. I totally agree. But specifically, how has Dr. Herring addressed the loss of so many people out of the district, the bleeding of people? What is her plan? What does she say? I'm just curious. But that could be anyone. Erika, Tamara, I think.
So I can tell you, when I asked about those questions previously, HR was doing some type of, I guess, study around there to find out why teachers were leaving, why employees were leaving, and we're taking that information. What's Travis Novell is there. They were taking that information to go back and see where they can identify different opportunities that the district could kind of pivot to try to help retain teachers. I know, I will say, I know Dr. Herron is doing a teacher pipeline with Spelman. I know that's one of the things that she's doing. And there's other different strategies that she's working with. I don't know if Travis want to answer any of that, but I do know that we have a presentation coming up in June regarding the teacher retention, the plan around retaining and attracting teachers, and also the competitive salaries. But I guess that's just like a quick overview. I don't have the details done, but I can go get them for you.
Yeah, and I think it's just
follow up with you with a strategic plan about how we retain in teachers. But more so, we got to find out why they're leaving. Because that's more important, because there's things that we can improve. I know there's opportunity for improvement. There's always opportunity for improvement. Let me just say that. And once we identify those areas, I think that's the opportunity to improve on those areas, to retain those teachers. But nationwide, and I know this just from my conversations with people all over the United States, teacher burnout is real. It is. And there's no way around it. So we really have to focus on how we can provide an environment that teachers don't burn out so quickly. But it also has to do with leadership. Leadership plays a big role in how our schools are ran, how our district is ran. So I'm just going to touch on those two things, but as always done, I will ask more questions around the concerns that you brought to me, the strategy around how we're going to retain teachers, why are teachers leaving, or employees in general, and follow back up with you.
And I will say that, so this just really quickly, because I know Akeem's going to go and then we have to head out.
Okay.
Last week, I sent an email to Dr. Herring, addressed to Dr. Herring, and I CC'd the board. She still hasn't responded to me. So it's been a week, right? Like at least 5 business days. And in my email, I specifically spoke to, hey, we're like losing. Now, there are a couple of people that we want to lose at Mays, but there are a whole lot of people that we're like, holy moly, give me hope. And I literally put in my email, can we give them some hope? Like, come have a conversation, like, don't abandon the ship, because the announcement was made so late that Dr. Wilkins was leaving that people are already put in motion. We're applying to other jobs. Like, and some people are just like, I can't take the risk. I got to go. And so my issue is August, June, but we've been bleeding. Listen, and I'm going to just state it. Travis was there, Norval, when we had this conversation last June. Mays, they've been lying about their retention rate. We had to call them out on the carpet, right? We had to literally listen, you're lying. There's no way you're retaining 90% of your people. Stop lying. And they had to back up off of that because it was 100% a lie. And it's like, but we brought that up. So this is almost like, it's like the emperor has no clothes on. I guess someone's finally said, hey, you guys know you're naked or something. That's not like an outfit. And now we're looking at it in June and August when this was brought to your attention, and the retention and the loss of people and the pay equity and all this stuff was so, I guess I'm a little disappointed that it's on the agenda for June and August when this is old news and we could have done something different. We could have been innovative, but this goes back to leadership. So the answer is, it's really kind of late to be doing this now when the red herring, like basically the canary in the coal mine, the canary was like, hey, and we ignored the canary, but we've had the warning system in place. Like we knew what was happening. And I know the rest of the world, teachers are leaving, but it goes to Dion's point of what are you asking your teachers to do? What are you asking your teachers to do? How are you treating your teachers? And what are you paying your teachers? How can you bring some relief? And I specifically asked for that in the email I sent to Dr. Herring last week, and she hasn't responded. So I don't know if she's checked out. I don't know if she's on sabbatical. I'm not sure what's going on, but it basically shows that you actually don't care about your employees. You don't care about the vacancies because you haven't responded. So I know, I'm sorry, you got 1 minute. Go, Akeem.
No, it's fine. And I will resend that email to her on your behalf. So no problem, Don. Akeem?
Hey, Erika. While listening to the other commentary tonight and just the well thought out questions, I want to say thank you to everybody that showed up tonight. So my question is, when are we going to actually get the data released for MAP suspension, culture, and climate? Like, I understand that Matt is quite busy working 2 roles. When are we going to get a chief of schools? I mean, like, it's hard to be the chief performance officer and the chief of schools, so I can understand why data has been delayed. But we also got to look at how many people Dr. Herring has brought to Atlanta with her and be real. Are they really what's best for our Atlanta culture and what we need for our students to thrive? They came from failing districts and they're doing the same thing. They're making us fail. They're making us look bad. Atlanta public schools need to be the best school system in this district in the Southeast region. I mean, how is it that we got 21st century classrooms in all these schools, yet they don't have computers in them? Like, that's not 21st century. That's not innovative. and you all need to look into that. Like, where are the research papers? Where are the students supposed to hang out? I mean, like, I understand it's 2023, everybody want to be on edge ends, but and we got to have a culture where students are being students. That means hanging out after school. That means hanging out before school sometimes to get some projects done. I mean, like, the school is a community resource, so we got to make sure that it's living up to its standard. We got $1.6 billion coming from the city this year. And where's the return on our investments when we look at our scholars once they're going out the gate? We got to do better. And Dr. Herring is not it. I mean, we've been preaching that. Your colleagues need to really hop on board and really examine her and say, as a district, for the 50,000 students that we do have, do we want to go through and lose another 4,000 students next year? Do we want to go through and lose another 7,000 students the year after that? Like, what is going to happen when we have 20,000 students and now charter schools has most of our money tied up? We got to be for real. Like, y'all say y'all want more people to show up. I'm gonna keep pushing it, putting the pressure on y'all. Y'all got to do something with Dr. Herring. She either need to step up or step down.
Thank you, Akeem. Oh, and I apologize. I know we're a little bit over time. I want to thank everyone for showing up this evening. And I took a lot of notes. I will follow up with you all. If you don't have my contact number, I'll put it in the chat and you can reach me anytime. I know several of you do call me a lot. So, you know, like I said, I'll be following up. And if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I'll have the next meeting scheduled for June, which is after graduation. But if in the meantime, we can continue the conversation. Yeah, we can not just continue, but I will have some follow-up, some answers, not just conversating, just following up with you all regarding your concerns. So I do want to thank you again for taking the time out tonight.
All right. Everyone have a great night.
Take care.
Thank you.